Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Cindy, and in today's video, we're going to be creating a magical indoor houseplant garden. So last night I was reading this lovely book called The Green Witch's Garden, which I will link to down below in the description box. This was gifted to me by a subscriber, and it's a wonderful book if you want to get started with a magical garden. So I live in an apartment, and I don't have a place for an outdoor garden, so I have to grow my plants indoors. After reading this book last night, I was very inspired to get my indoor houseplant garden into shape. So today I'm going to be buying some new houseplants and sharing with you all of my favorite houseplants to grow, especially easy care plants that can tolerate neglect, or maybe if you're new to growing houseplants, just some of the easier plants that I find usually thrive pretty well indoors. And I'm going to share their magical properties with you, and we're going to do some repotting and tool dedication and just some general houseplant maintenance today. So first of all, I'm going to take stock of the supplies that I have and see what I need to pick up at the hardware store. So I currently have about 6 empty pots. I have 2 little small ones here, 2 medium size, and 2 pretty large. I also have 1 small bag of potting mix, but I don't think that's going to be enough for my project today. I'm going to make a little list here before I go to the hardware store. I need at least 1 medium-sized pot. I need some more potting soil. I need a pair of shears for cutting back my plants. And then I'm just gonna look for additional house plants. There are a few that I have that I really wanna get, and then I will need to get pots for any of those that won't fit into my small pots. Okay, we're off. Okay, y'all, I am here at Lowe's and we're going into the garden center so we can see what kind of plants they have. I'm really excited. Early spring is like the best time to come and look for house plants. So I found this plant called a dark mystery palea, and it's so pretty. It's the only one I see here, and I think I'm gonna get it. Dark mystery. Well, y'all, I was kind of disappointed by the selection of the houseplants in Lowe's. They really didn't have almost anything I was looking for. I did buy these 2 plants right here, and I'm going to stop by Walmart and check out their houseplant section and get the rest of my supplies. So here I am in the plant section again, and I'm just going to look through and see what I can find here. It looks like they have some different stuff from Lowe's. So I'm getting some potting mix. I got a little planter, my shears, and a plant stand. Unfortunately, I didn't buy any plants here because they just didn't have anything that I really wanted. I think I'm gonna have to make an Etsy plant shopping trip. All right, I'm back home and I am preparing my workspace. So I've put a blanket down over the table because this is where I'm gonna do my repotting. And that way I can just shake it out outside when I'm done and then throw it in the washing machine. And now we're gonna purify our working space by earth, air, fire, and water. So to purify by earth, I'm gonna take a little tray of salt and I'm gonna sprinkle this around, and I'm gonna imagine the energy of earth cleansing our space of all negativity. For water, I have my cauldron filled with a little spring water, and I'm gonna sprinkle this around and imagine the energy of water purifying our space of all negativity. For fire, I am gonna light a little white chime candle and imagine that the power of fire is cleansing our space. The color of the day today is white, so that's why I'm using a white candle. I'm gonna leave it there burning in my workspace for a few moments. And finally, for air, I am gonna light incense. So the smoke of the incense can purify our area. The incense of the day today is clove, so this is a clove incense that I have. So I'm gonna take this around and make sure the smoke cleanses our entire area. incense and candle burning here on our workspace. Anytime that I'm going to be doing some magical work, I just create an altar wherever I am. And right now my altar is my kitchen table. And if you cleanse it properly, you can work anywhere. I'm going to start today with the largest plant that I need to repot, which is my Dracaena Janet Craig. This is a really, really good low maintenance houseplant. If you can find one of these, they're usually readily available in most like nurseries and big box stores. They're beautiful, they're easy to care for, they grow quickly, and they also make great magical houseplants. There are, I think, over 120 different species of Dracaena, and all of them make really good houseplants, all of them that I'm aware of. So some of the magical properties of this plant include bringing clarity and focus to your mind, which makes them useful for meditation and different spiritual practices. But because the plant is so strong and resilient, it also has properties of endurance and helping you overcome obstacles in life. So let's go ahead and repot this baby. It's in a pretty small pot. This is the pot that I bought it in. As you can see here, and I'm gonna repot it. Oh geez, that is a huge pot. I don't know, that might be too big to repot it in. Now, on second thought, maybe I'll try a smaller one. As a general rule of thumb, when you're repotting a plant, you usually want to repot it in a pot about 2 inches in diameter bigger. You don't want to put it in too large of a pot. So right now we have a 6-inch pot. I'm measuring it with a measuring tape. So I need something about 8 inches to repot it. This pot I have here is 9 inches, and I think that'll be okay. Okay, so the first thing I did, I thought I was recording it, sorry, is pour some potting soil into this little container, this little planter, and I'm just using Miracle-Gro indoor potting mix. I love the smell of it. It smells so earthy. So I filled it about 3/4 of the way full, and I'm gonna dig a little hole in the middle. And then I'm gonna take my Dracaena and I am gonna see how it's root bound. Oof, yeah, this needs to be repotted. I'm gonna try to like gently, without damaging too much of the roots here, take it out of its old container. And I'm just gonna try to kind of pull away some of this dirt from the roots. And this is why I put a blanket down, because I knew I was gonna make a huge mess. It's always messy when you repot. And because I live in an apartment, I don't really have a place outdoors that I could do this and film it. So we're just gonna do it inside. Then I'm gonna vacuum up after we're done and shake this blanket out. Now that I've loosened up the roots somewhat, I'm gonna go ahead and repot it into its new home here. I'm gonna add some more soil around it. I wanna make sure I get this in the center, because in its old container, it was not centered very well. It was like growing off to one side. Okay, y'all, we've got the Dracaena repotted here in its new home, and I'm gonna set this to the side, and once I finish all my repotting, we're gonna go water all the plants. So the next plant I have here is another Dracaena. I was wrong about the type of Dracaena. This is actually called a lemon lime. I saw one of these at the store earlier and I looked at the name of it. So it's called a Dracaena Warnicki lemon lime. I bought this plant on clearance because it was not doing well, and somehow I've nursed it back to health. It's looking really nice, but it is a little bit root bound and I think it needs to be repotted. Like the other Dracaena, this one also has magical properties of clarity and focus, endurance, and helping you to overcome obstacles in your life. It's a beautiful plant, very hardy. I could highly recommend this one as an easy to grow houseplant. And they're also plentiful. They are everywhere. So you can probably find one at your local store. So now I'm gonna measure our pot here, and I'm realizing I should have done this before I went to the store because I'm not sure if I'm gonna have the right size pots, but this one is also a 6-inch. So I need something like 8 to 9 inches to put this in. Let me see what I can scrounge up. Well, I've had no luck. The only pots I have left are 10-inch or 6-inch, and I think 10-inch is way too big to repot this plant in, so it's not gonna be repotted today. I am gonna water it and keep it in this pot until the next time I can get to the store and get an 8-inch pot to replant it in. So we'll do that on another day. This one isn't suffering too much in its current pot, so I think it'll be fine here for another week or so. So the next plant I have is Tradescantia. So this plant probably needs to be repotted more than any of my other plants. I've had it for a long time living in this tiny little pot, and like I said, I've had to cut it back once already. So some of the properties, the magical properties of Tradescantia Tradescantia. It's also known as spiderwort. It's associated with love and friendship, so you can use it in various love and friendship spells and charms. And when placed around your house, it will dispel negativity and attract love and positivity. So that's exactly the kind of plant I need, specifically because it's so hardy and so easy to care for as well. And when it flowers, you can carry the dried flowers around with you to attract abundance and good luck. So I'm gonna repot this into this much bigger 6-inch pot. So just like before, I'm gonna fill this about 3/4 of the way full with potting mix. Then we're gonna dig a little hole in the middle. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. I'm definitely not. And we're just gonna kind of ease the plant out of its old pot, which it came right out, and it's pretty root bound too. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So I'm just gonna kind of remove some of the dirt away from the root here. So it's also got some dead leaves on the bottom that I'm gonna remove while I'm doing this and just clean it up the best I can here. So while you're repotting your plants, I feel like this is a really good time to sort of get to know them better. And I try to like tune into their energy, listen to any messages they're trying to give me, let them feel my energy too. It's just kind of like a really intimate way to get to know your plants. Okay, this root ball is super tight, so I'm just gonna kind of not mess with it too much. And we're just gonna plop this right in here. And also, as I'm repotting my plants for my magical garden, one thing that I like to do is to infuse them with energy of growth and love and abundance. So I'll just imagine the energy coming from my heart, down my arms, into the plant, into the soil, into the roots, giving it lots of love, imagining the plant growing strong, giving it all of that loving energy. And you can change the energy that you give the plant based on the plant's properties. Since this plant is a plant of friendship and love, then I'm going to make sure to infuse it with plenty of loving vibes here. So I've been going through a time of darkness in my personal life over the past year. I've gone through 2 painful breakups and just a lot of turmoil in my life. And during that time, I was neglecting my plants, my herbalism, my practice, my witchery, my spirituality, all of that. And sometimes you just find yourself lost in the dark. I know everybody's probably gone through those times in their life. But now, I'm finding my way back to the light, and I'm ready to get back into taking care of my little babies here, fixing up my magical garden, and practicing my witchcraft again. Thank you so much for joining me. And now we have our Tradescantia repotted. Look how pretty it looks in the new pot. So I'm gonna set that to the side until we get ready to water. So the next plant I have is this beautiful Christmas cactus, and as you can see here, it's just about to bloom. I usually don't like to repot a plant when it's in active bloom, but since I'm replanting all my plants today, and this one definitely needs to be replanted, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. So it's in a very small 4-inch container here, and I'm gonna repot it into a 6-inch. So this is obviously a cactus, it's a succulent, but it's not an arid cactus, it's a tropical one. And you often see these for sale around Christmas time in the winter season. I bought this one over the holidays. It's March now, and it seems to be doing all right. Now, succulents are really great to work with in a magical way if you have a problem with overflowing emotions, as I definitely do. And I want to read you something from the Green Witch's Garden. Succulents are good for reminding you that moderation in all things and a balanced approach are both very important. A succulent is designed by nature to conserve water in its fleshy parts, allowing it to deal with extended dry periods. If you have difficulty with overflowing emotional responses to situations or events, perhaps working with succulents could be beneficial. Feeling your emotions is valuable. Being unable to function clearly because you are overwhelmed by emotion or feeling drained because you feel so deeply is a hindrance. Meditate, reach out to the plant spirit and ask for its guidance in how to balance your responses and deepest feelings in a beneficial, safe way. If you have BPD like I do, succulents are great plants to work with magically. And I am going to be doing some meditation with my succulents. I have about 3 of them. And see if I can get some guidance for dealing with my emotional reactivity, which is something I'm working very hard on as part of my personal growth journey. But now we are going to go ahead and replant this Christmas cactus, so let me get a pot for it. So I'm gonna have to open a new bag of potting soil here, and I have this Miracle Grow moisture control. I really like to use this for my succulents because it keeps them from being over or underwatered. This is earthy. This is some chunky earthy stuff right here. It's not dry. I love the smell of earth. So yeah, I'm just gonna fill this probably about 3/4 of the way up. That looks good. And then I'm gonna gently take the cactus out, and I'm gonna loosen up the root ball here the best I can. Try not to damage the roots. All right, and then I'm gonna just stick it right in here, and I'm gonna finish filling up the pot. And while I'm doing this, I'm also gonna be infusing the plant with loving, abundant growth energy. And then sometimes when I'm done putting all the soil in, I will just sit here for a moment and meditate with the plant, try to feel its energy, anything it might be trying to tell me, anything it can teach me. Okay, so I've got the Christmas cactus done. Here's how she looks. And I'm gonna set her aside. I don't know why I called her her. I guess it feels like it has a feminine energy to me. And I'm gonna set that aside until we're ready to water. I know one message she was telling me, thank you for repotting me. You're welcome, little one. The next plant I have is the poinsettia. Now, I have not been great at growing the poinsettia. As you can see, it's missing a lot of its bottom leaves. Somehow I've managed to keep it alive through March. And the thing is, I think I'm letting it dry out too much. I think poinsettias like the soil moist. As far as magical properties, there's not a lot of recognition for poinsettia as a magical plant. In fact, I couldn't find it in any of my reference books, and I have a lot of them. But I did look up online and find a few things you might find interesting. On witchesandpagans.com, I found the red poinsettia symbolizes the returning sun. The color red also represents the life-giving blood of the goddess, her power of regeneration, and the promise of renewal to come in the spring. As part of your Yule ritual, remove a red bract and hold it between your hands as you make a wish for the coming year. Leave it on your altar until New Year's Eve and burn it as you visualize the wish you made at Yule. So it's a very popular plant around the holidays, obviously, but you can keep poinsettias growing far after the holidays. They're not annuals, as some people think they are. You can actually keep them going. Just because a plant has a traditional magical meaning doesn't mean that that's the only thing it can help you with. If you meditate with the plant and reach out to it, it may have other meanings and other lessons for you. So always listen to your own intuition when it comes to plants. So this poor baby desperately needs to be repotted and watered. So we're gonna take it, or actually let me get the planter I'm gonna use here. I'm just gonna use this little 6-inch self-watering planter that I bought today. And we're gonna go ahead, I am gonna use the moisture control potting soil for this too, because poinsettia will start losing leaves if it gets too dry. That's definitely what's happened to mine. All right, now I'm just gonna gently take it out of its original pot here, loosen up the roots. Yeah, it's got like a dry crust on the top, so I've definitely let this get too dry, and that's a big problem with poinsettia. When I first got it and it started losing leaves, I thought it was because I wasn't giving it enough light. Oh my gosh, it's just falling apart here. But it actually does really well under my plant lights on my plant shelf. It just needs to be kept moist. I'm making a huge mess here. I think that's pretty loose. That's pretty loose. Let's put that in the pot here. And I hope I don't kill it. I hope this does not kill it. I hope it can survive this transplant. I am no expert with growing plants. I am always learning. I love to grow things. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I succeed, but my goal now is to work with the energy of the plants so they can help tell me what they need. Okay, and once again, I'm gonna give this plant plenty of loving energy. I'm just gonna infuse it with all I've got, y'all. Love and growth and renewal and abundance. Okay, there we go. Looks much nicer in the new pot. And let's cross our fingers that she makes it. The next plant I have here is ivy. This specific variety is called Jubilee ivy, and I just love how the foliage looks. It's very pretty. I've always wanted to grow an ivy. I used to have one, but it died in my time of depression. So I'm trying again with a new ivy, and I'm just gonna go ahead and repot this in this pretty blue planter that I have here. It's just a little bit bigger than the one it's already in. So magical properties of ivy, the traditional property is loyalty, but it can also be used for fertility and protection. And ivy is typically very easy to grow, and there are all different types of ivy. But this Jubilee ivy needs medium light and it needs to dry out in between waterings. Ivy also typically likes humidity. So I like to mist my plants, the ones that like high humidity, about once a day. So I'm gonna start by filling the planter up. Not much. I'm not gonna put much in here yet because I just bought this plant, so the soil should still be pretty good. Let's just try to very gently pull it out of its home here. There we go. And I'm just honestly gonna put this whole thing right in here and then fill it in. Once again, reaching out to the plant, feeling its energy, infusing it with love and growth. And for this specific plant, infusing it with loyalty, fertility, protection. All right, there we go. Our little ivy is potted. Looks so cute. There's a big red poinsettia leaf in the picture there. There's the ivy though. So the last plant that I have to repot is the plant that I bought today. I saw it and I was just so drawn to this plant. It's called Dark Mystery Palea. Palea, I think is how you say it. Look at this beautiful foliage. It's like blackish, purplish green, and it has long serrated leaves. This thing is beautiful. And I don't know, I was just really drawn to it. I think it might have some lessons for me. This plant is known to attract positive vibes in your home, and its dark leaves symbolize grounding and protection. It can help balance the energy in the room in which you place it. And something that I feel intuitively about this plant is I think it would be very good for shadow work. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it into its new planter. I'm gonna be planting the Dark Mystery plant in another one of these little blue planters that I had. So I'm gonna start by filling it up with soil. Just a little bit though, just to put a little base down. And then I'm gonna gently guide this plant out. Okay, there we go. And then I'm basically just gonna plop this one in just like I did the other plant and then fill it in with soil. I'm really excited to work with this plant. I just love the foliage. I love plants with interesting foliage. And I don't really have to put much dirt in here because it pretty much just filled up the planter. And I'm gonna infuse this plant with lots of grounding, protective energy so that it will continue to give off that energy in my home. Okay, look how gorgeous. And here's the aftermath. But here are all my beautiful plants. Repotted the ones that I could repot. And then I wanted to show you a few more of my houseplants that I'm not repotting today. This is my pothos, and it lives here in my kitchen windowsill, and it does excellently here in this indirect light. You can see how much it's grown. It's starting to vine around my dish rack. Magically, pothos is really good for cleansing energy and for just lightening up the air and energy and aura of the space that it's in. It's also super easy to take care of, and I would highly recommend it if you need an easy care plant to just stick in a window somewhere. They do really great, and they're super easy to propagate too. Over here I have a Black Raven ZZ plant. This is another super easy care plant. It lives here in very indirect light. It only gets light from this window over here, and it thrives here, and it needs very little watering. I only water it about once a month. And it does very well, and it has beautiful black leaves. I just fell in love with this plant the first time I ever saw it and knew I had to have one of my own. As far as magical properties, it represents mystery, growth, and fortune. Over here we have a philodendron, another super low maintenance, easy to care for houseplant. This one also only gets indirect light from this window over here. And it grows and grows and thrives, just trailing down my bookshelf. I really love trailing vining plants, and this is a super easy one to care for. This is a heartleaf philodendron, and it's one of my favorite plants, one of the plants I've had for the longest. Magically, philodendrons can be used for lifting or cleansing negative or stagnant energy. Over here next to the window, I have another of my favorite houseplants, snake plant or sansevieria. These are incredibly low maintenance. You only need to water them about once a month. They are succulents, so they have the same magical property as other succulents. And I think they'd be great to work with if you're dealing with emotional control like I am. So I am going to be doing some work with my snake plant in the near future. They have beautiful foliage and they don't need very much light. They don't need very much attention. You can pretty much just throw them somewhere where they're getting some kind of indirect light, water them once a month, and they'll thrive. Now that we have everything repotted, I am going to water the plants. So I'm going to start out with my Janet Craig. And I'm going to use my sink sprayer. Whoops, I'm losing my dish rack here. I don't think I got it completely centered in the pot like I hoped, but that's all right. It'll grow into its new home. All right, now that it's watered really well, I'm gonna go put it in its new place. So this plant has grown too large to live on my plant shelf anymore over in the corner, so I bought it its own plant stand. So I'm gonna place it right here in the window next to my snake plant. And wow, it's almost as tall as my snake plant too. And it looks like it's kind of leaning over. I'm gonna try to straighten it up a little bit. Get it to stand up straight until it gets a little more comfortable and takes root there. Now I'm gonna water these two medium-sized plants, my Dracaena lemon lime. It needs to be watered. We didn't repot it, but it still needs to be watered. And then I'm gonna water the poinsettia. Get it all watered into its new. Oh, it's really wobbly there. I hope I didn't hurt it too much in the transplant, y'all. I'm gonna try to nurse her back to health. So these two plants, because they are larger in size and they're a little bit taller, they're gonna go on the top rack of my plant rack here. So I bought this plant rack on Amazon. It was super easy to put together. I'll link to it down below if you're interested. And if you're gonna do an indoor garden, magical or not, I would really recommend getting some grow lights. And I specifically like these grow lights because they have these arms that you can move around. I even have one down under here. It has 4 different arms on it that you can move around wherever you need the light. And it has a timer on it. So since daylight savings, I've been running the light for 12 hours a day. Now I'm gonna go water all my little ones and then we'll put them over here in their homes. I actually think I'm gonna put my Christmas cactus up on, no I'm not. I have an aloe outside that I'm gonna put back up on top when I bring it in. So I'm gonna put the Christmas cactus here. And I'm just gonna adjust this arm. And if I didn't say so, I will link to this plant light that I'm using here. I got it on Amazon very inexpensively. And it's been going for me for over a year now. And then my Tradescantia, go right here. I'll put the ivy here. Actually, the ivy needs more light, so I think I'm gonna move it towards the middle where it's right under the light. And then I have this little guy, and I guess I'm gonna put him down here on the bottom. And I hope he's gonna get enough light. I'm gonna move him right there. I think he should get enough light down there. So here's my plant rack all cleaned up. And like I said, I do have an aloe vera I'm gonna put up on the top as well. I just put it outside because I'm not sure, it may have a pest. It may have a pest infestation, so I gotta take care of that. The next thing I'm gonna do to add a little more magic to my magical houseplant garden is add crystals to my plants. So I have this Crown Royal bag that has all these little crystal chips in them that I pulled out of the ground myself in a local crystal mine. And these are all charged. They've been charged in the full moon. And now I'm going to put a crystal into each of the pots. I just stick it right into the soil. Quartz crystals have properties of protection, healing, and power. So I like to put them, and because they're so abundant where I live in a place where you can just find crystals in the ground outside, and we have many crystal mines that you can go to and mine crystals, so I have tons of them. So I like to use them just to add a little more protective energy to my houseplants. I'm sweaty, y'all. It's my house is really hot right now. And I've been doing a lot of work. So I'm gonna take this big, beautiful clear one that I have and put it into the poinsettia's pot because I feel like the poinsettia needs the extra boost. And if you do this with your houseplants, just make sure you purify and cleanse your crystals, whichever way you do that. I like to do mine in the full moon, but you can do it in water. There's lots of different ways. Just make sure you do that before you put them in. So now I'm just gonna go through and give All of this one has a piece of selenite in it, so I'm not going to give it another crystal right now. But all of these plants will get a little quartz. And sometimes I'll use different crystals. I do have quite a few of them, and if I feel like the properties of a crystal really match the properties of a plant, I will use that crystal instead of a quartz. But otherwise, I typically use quartz a lot because I just have so many of them. Another way I add a little magic to my indoor magical houseplant garden is to mist my plants with moon water. So this is water that I have charged in the full moon that I put in this little mister bottle. And so I will mist my plants that need higher humidity using the moon water. The ivy, I think, is going to need higher humidity. It probably doesn't need to be misted now, but I'm just doing it for a demonstration. And then also the dark mystery and possibly the poinsettia. I'll just give it a little mist. Why not? It's pretty dry in here. And if you're going for a specific vibe, you can also like charge your moon water with a specific energy. If you want to help your plants grow, you could charge your moon water with an energy of growth and abundance, love, whatever you want, and then mist it onto them. So those are just some ideas for some things you can do to make your little garden more magical. Well, y'all, I think that's gonna wrap up today's video. Thank you so much for joining me as I got my magical houseplant garden started, and I hope I gave you some ideas for your own garden. And leave a comment down below and let me know what some of your favorite houseplants are, especially if they're easy care. I'm still working on my collection and I wanna add a lot more, so let me know which ones have worked well for you. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you with a new video very soon. Bye!